And we're live. What does it mean to be live on Facebook? I'm not sure. I guess that would depend on who's watching. And I've been blessed to have some audiences on Monday nights for my training week in review. And I want to thank all of you who took the time to watch my live performances or listen to the show or see it on my YouTube channel, BST for Better. If not for you, there would have been no reason to do the show, except of course, I really was looking for some assistance, financial assistance. I was hoping to find a sponsor for my acting and other production endeavors, or somebody who would set up a GoFundMe.com page to help me pay for my medical bills and living expenses, or somebody who would do a Kickstarter. All that's very true, and although that didn't happen, I'm still grateful that each and every one of my audience members took the time to hear me speak about my training week in review. Having said that, hey there, Mr. Blue. This episode 6 goes out to you. Who is Mr. Blue? Well, tonight I'm going to refer to a drilling partner of mine, a St. Charles police officer whom I did not work with this week because, face it, I only went to class one day this week, and we'll get there in just a moment because after all, it is episode 6 of my training week in review. But Mr. Blue that I'm speaking about is St. Charles police officer, had really good interaction with, was able to drill with, and just had a good time working with the purple belt, aside from the fact that he outweighs me probably by a good 100 or so pounds. And you get smashed by somebody that heavy, you get smashed. But having said that, last Monday night, I think it was, I didn't go over a whole lot about last week's Monday night evening. I talked a little bit about it. He was my training partner, and it appears that when I saw him on Friday in Professor Phil Lampy's class, that he's going to be out for the next 6 weeks. He said that he needs to have elbow surgery, and they're telling him it's about a 6-week recovery. He said 4. I told him to follow the rehab and recovery orders given to him by his doctor and his therapist, not to be hard-headed about it. So, hey there, Mr. Blue, get well. Looking forward to seeing you back up on the mats. Hopefully we'll have a chance to do that before my training days at the Gracie Amata end in May. Hey there, Mr. Blue. And this time I'm not talking about Mr. Blue, the police officer who's out for the next 6 weeks. I will be talking about my drilling partner during Professor Phil Lampy's class on Friday. His name was also Phil. We had a good session of drilling. We worked on the lasso again and getting grips and moving out of the guard. So to be precise about what we were doing with the class on Friday, the only class that I attended last week, and I'll get into that in just a minute. We were working on moving into a more dominant position. So for those of you who do not know, I always have access to mats. I don't actually have to go to a training school to get access to a mat. I don't have to go to a gym to get access to a mat. I always have access to mats because my office and the place that I have been employed for the last 8 years has these little mats. They're not the best for doing like judo falls and stuff. But you got to remember, I roll on concrete. I roll on hardwood. So although these aren't the best mats for you, and they're certainly not the kind of mats you're going to find at a professional martial arts academy. I don't care, you know. Don't hit your head on the concrete. Don't hit your head on the wooden floor. Don't hit your head on the tile. Be careful. If you slip and fall, know how to fall. Remember to stay hydrated. We don't talk about that enough. You know, after all, I was poisoned by water. Like I was the only one. Remember Flint, Michigan? The whole well was poisoned there. But I was poisoned long before that. It was during a period of time when I was going out and did not want to consume anything other than soft drinks or water. And surprisingly, the water was poisoned. Yeah, I told somebody. You've got your feet on the biceps of your opponent, and I think your hands, your grips are on the sleeves. So we were working where the person might step out, and if they stepped out, it was a hippie thing again. We were just learning to center our hips again. Remember, we want to keep our knees in tight, and we want to keep, so if they moved that way, just to the center, back up. So we worked on centering ourselves. So what we were doing is we had the sleeve grips, we're on the biceps, or if the person went, our job was to go with him. It was just to allow ourselves to stay with him. So if he moved, we scooted our buttocks and our hips towards them, so we stayed with them. Moved to either side, we turned our hips. We stayed with the theme that I was talking about in episode 5 about being hippie, and we stayed with that theme about keeping our hips moving in the way that we needed to in order to get to where we needed to be centered. Then we moved on from there because training with a professional instructor is progressive. You work part of the drill. We might start with in the guard, and then from there you move back and progressively move. So the next thing I think we did was work again with the lasso. Phil Lampy, one of the stars of my Training Week in Review show, was promoted to black belt in November 2020. How do I know? Because I asked him, kind of an interview question. I said, I spoke with Tim Condren the other day, my buddy Tim. He said he was promoted to black belt in 2017. And I was just wondering, when were you promoted? And Phil answered the question, a respectable question from a journalist to a martial arts instructor, martial arts school owner. He said November 2020. So Phil got his black belt in November 2020, and my friend was good. So we also worked on the lasso, and then after you have the lasso in, we were able to try to kick the leg up. If the person does not post on their foot, does not stop, they will end up either being face planted or have to roll. Phil was working with a young white belt and showing him the moves, and unfortunately Eric face planted because he did not step forward on the movement and did not try to stop from being thrown, and therefore he got thrown and he didn't roll, so he face planted. People can get hurt. You sign a contract, it's a waiver. It says you're taking the risk, you assume the risk and responsibility and the liability for yourself for training in a martial art. And by the way, the word martial, unlike I said last week, does not actually mean military like. It does, but it doesn't. It means warlike. The word martial art means warlike art. Martial law means warlike law. So that's where the word martial comes from, M-A-R-T-I-A-L. So yes, we worked on putting the lasso in, we worked on kicking the leg up to bring our opponent off base, putting our leg between our other leg, planting it down to assist in what it seems like almost a tomonagi, but it's not exactly. And then failure to do that, moving our hips as the person posts towards the leg, head to the leg, knee up, and sweeping to the ground. Mats are helpful when you're starting in a standing position and you're falling to the ground. And the only other thing we did, I believe, besides the lasso and the sweep, we just did a basic two-hand behind the ankle sweep. You know, pretty standard. People forget about what that's like. But if your beauty or your opponent is here and they're standing above you, and they got your legs here, and you know, you might be here as you come up and you release your hands, just grab the bottom of your pants legs and pull. And as you pull, just continue on up until you get into a mount. So, that's pretty much my one training session with Professor Phil Lampe, working with a blue belt by the name of Phil. I did not roll. I left class and did some other things. I think I mentioned I've started training again at a gymnasium that provides the amenities of a swimming pool, a whirlpool, a steam room, and a sauna, in addition to weights, free weights, machine weights, and a huge heavy bag for kicking and boxing, or as we like to say, kickboxing, track, and studios. You might have seen a video I did the other day of me in one of the studios near the bar. So yeah, I'm training, and I'm continuing my jiu-jitsu training, but I'm also cross-training, doing martial arts, both in the water as well as strength training in the water and aerobic exercises on the elliptical cross trainer, some weight training for strength, biceps, triceps, legs, and doing some kickboxing in the back and working with there's this guy there, Kenny, who's really good. He just showed his student, the guy wants to be a pro boxer, young man, Kenny's an older guy. He showed him a pretty good series of moves. I liked it. I could share that with you. Didn't try it in training. I already know a lot of striking. Somebody was talking about the striking coach at the jiu-jitsu school. There is one, but another guy I've known for over 10 years, Derek, is their striking coach. If you want to do mixed martial arts, I don't know if I would recommend Gracie Yamata, J.W. Wright's school in Weldon Springs, or one of the other Gracie Yamatas, but there are some affiliated schools. I think Wolfsten is affiliated at some point. I know Krav Maga and Fenton was affiliated at some point. So, I mean, if you want to get into more striking and things like that, I don't recommend you go to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. I recommend that you go to either an MMA academy, like Watson's Mixed Martial Arts, where you have a guy like Jason Salufo, a Muay Thai specialist, who will help train you, and Kyle Watson, UFC veteran, who will help train you, and guys there that will do MMA with you. There's a guy getting ready to do a nemesis fighting, and shout out to Colin Carr, getting back into the cage. I think it's a different, maybe a smaller show. I'm not had to take some time off, but he's back. He's got the heart. He's got the drive. That's what he wants to be. His focus is mixed martial arts. So he does his thing at Watson's MMA in Wolfstead, and he's going to be out there at Nemesis. Also, you always have Mike Rogers' place, and there's just been countless number of fighters that have come out of St. Charles MMA and have worked their way into the UFC. So yeah, if you're looking to do that, you might want to go to a place like St. Charles MMA. I don't know what the talent pool is there, but you know, like the guy that was just in the Fuji World Pro, I think he lost the match, Kirk Hoff, who runs the Arnold Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Kirk Hoff, but I think he came out of either Finney's or Mike's place, you know, Jesse and Mike, they've been doing this a long time. Sure, JW fought in Strikeforce. He doesn't talk about his second fight too much. He lost. My friend JW will teach you that we do not lose, we learn. And I was watching an interview that he was doing the other day with a shooter for the UFC, a guy named Don McGuire. I guess shoots out of things, I guess he's a friend of JW's as well. And I'm sure JW has a lot of connections. Another buddy of mine from back in the day, a student of Fred Wren, who used to have countless karate do schools in town, Fred and Frank Babcock, Finney, you know, Tony Barron, you know, said, yeah, that professor all those years ago got pretty beat up by a striker at that time. That's a long time ago. He's a 4th degree black belt now in jiu-jitsu. Put your hands on him, chances are you're going down. Going down bad. I like JW, he's my friend. I'm going to continue to train in Brazilian jiu-jitsu with him. I think his attitude and his instruction is top-notch. One of the best places in the area where you can get world-class jiu-jitsu and work with world-class instructors. For real, if you listen to what you're being taught by JW and the professors, you don't have to get hurt. That's on you, or on anybody that does warlike arts, martial arts. Okay, I'm going to end this live broadcast with just a few things. One, this is episode 6 of my Training Week in Review, and it is also my final episode for Facebook Live, Mondays at 8:30 p.m. I had planned to go throughout the entire 3 months on a weekly show, but not being able to get sponsorship or money, and I'm going to cancel the program. Pilots on television tend to run maybe 12 weeks, sometimes only 6. And if they're not picked up by the network and there's no money behind them, that's it. They're done. A lot of actors have made their living just working in pilots. And, you know, if I had received even that would be great. You know, some back pay, what I've already done, writing, editing, and performing would be wonderful. But what I'm saying is that episode 6, this episode, is the final installment of my Training Week in Review. And I hope that whoever watched enjoyed what they saw, and thank you. This is the end of this programming. I look forward to my training, both at Gracie Yamata and at the other gym, and I look forward to whatever my next acting endeavor might be. So long farewell, auf Wiedersehen to you. I'm going to end this show for you. I'm going to remind you it's called rolling for a reason. If you want to roll, you got to know how to do. Now, in Jiu-Jitsu, they tend to step back like this. But maybe Aikido comes forward like that. Or you might come down and around such as that. I'm Bradley Tolpen, thanking you. I do.